Hi, Marge.
Thank you. Hi, Kun. Thank you for giving us this opportunity and welcome to our presentation from South Africa. We talk a lot about solutions in the Climate Action Project. And one of the most important ways of impacting on solutions is to impact on policy at a local and national level. And my students have been involved in helping draft policy in our city and in our nation through Model United Nations debating and research. So I'd like to introduce, first of all, Rachel Guys-Brown, a grade 11 pupil at Rodin School, who has been involved in drafting the Climate Action Plan for the city of Johannesburg. Rachel, could you just explain the process that you went through and give us some of the clauses that have been accepted by the city of Joburg?
So good afternoon from South Africa. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. I'm so grateful that through Model UN and the South African Institute of International Affairs Youth Organization to have become part of the team working on the Climate Action Plan Youth Statement for the city of Johannesburg. We have been meeting twice a week for the past 2 months now, which includes meetings with the City of Johannesburg Environmental Council. We are thrilled that our definitions and our preamble will be included in the foreword of the official Johannesburg Climate Action Plan, and that the youth will have their own section under mobilizing stakeholders. One of our sections in our youth statement is on education. It states, climate education and awareness needs to be reformed, integrated, pragmatic, comprehensive in terms of both formal and non-formal learning. The city can collaborate with youth and provide resources and funding for classroom and after-school programs that enables youth people to engage with climate change, but also spreads awareness to other young people and community members so that they can take climate action. The youth can help to inform the content of these sessions. Establish dedicated climate information systems in every school, clinic, councillor's office, City of Johannesburg building, library and community radio and newspaper that will communicate on climate change and sustainable development through eco-friendly but accessible media, such as digital information packs. Another section is on decolonization, and it states, in recognizing the contribution of colonialism to present-day socio-economic inequalities, we advocate for the support of platforms that amplify marginalized people and climate vulnerable communities in the climate change discourse. We are very excited about where we've gotten and that the youth's voices are being represented in policy. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. I think what Rachel spoke about with the decolonization at the end feeds into what Kumi Naidoo was talking about in terms of climate justice, not just climate action. I'm now going to turn to a grade 11 pupil and a grade 8 pupil, Beatrice Fortenhood and Almaz Mudley, who are going to talk about a week of climate change debate that took place in Johannesburg, together with people from the European Union. And they will talk about a statement that they drafted that came out of this debate that will impact on national policy.
So on the 19th of September, I had the privilege of attending the 2020 Climate Diplomacy Week with the EU and their youth dialogue, in which members of the South African youth came together in order to discuss ideas and areas of concern in order to create a green, just transition for South Africa post-COVID-19. The way in which we progress our country forward post-COVID-19 is crucial in our climate change fight. Before the debate and before the discussion, we were encouraged to look at documents such as the 2030 National Development Plan, which looks at creating an equitable South Africa for all, as well as the National Climate Change Adaptation Strategy for the country. During our fruitful discussion, in which we discussed ideas in which we can uplift and upskill our economy into creating a greener economy, as South Africa is still heavily based on fossil fuels. We also discussed the intersectionality of climate change, as well as the decarbonization of our current systems, as well as creating areas in which we can increase youth participation in discussions involving climate change. Almaz and I were then later selected to be part of the drafting for the statement, which was then later read at the closing ceremony of this week. Almaz was then later selected to discuss and engage with the statement in the closing ceremony. These events are so important as they allow us as the youth to engage in decision making as well as discussions around climate change. We are the generation who will be living in this post-COVID-19 world, and thus we will be responsible in creating this sustainable and safe future for all.
Good afternoon. A standout event, as outlined by Beatrice, was the EU Climate Diplomacy Week, which centered around a green, just recovery. During this conference, we shared stories as a youth and inspired one another to take further action on climate change. This event took place for a full week in the middle of September and culminated in a closing ceremony, in which I represented the youth opinion as a panelist, sharing the stage with EU ambassadors, European diplomats, and South African ministers. During this dialogue, I encountered so many different people, and equally with different opinions. I was able to negotiate with people from high school to university to government level. But a standout moment for me was being able to speak to youth from all different socioeconomic backgrounds so that we, as the drafting committee, could create an all-inclusive agenda. This event was excellently coordinated by SAIA, the South African Institute of International Affairs. They mobilized and organized the youth in a way that we were able to express our opinions in a meaningful way. I feel privileged and grateful to have been given this opportunity to express my opinion on climate change on this global platform, and I hope that other countries will create platforms like these so that they can empower their youth too.
So you will have heard from these pupils that it takes a lot of research to impact on policy. And Model United Nations involves doing a lot of research. We also have two pupils here today who have done research for the South African Institute of International Affairs around solar energy in schools. They are part of a competition, and the school that wins will get to meet the ministers of energy and environment and hopefully impact on their policy by sharing their research findings. So Sanjika Senaratne and Zara Ismail will share their research process and findings.
Good afternoon, everyone. Together with Zara Ismail, we participated in the Youth Research Symposium that was run by the South African Institute of International Affairs. For the project, we are required to write a 6 to 12-page research paper based on any climate-related issue. We decided to focus on the use of renewable energy, with specific focus on the use of solar energy in educational institutes. For the project, we needed to use two case examples, one from an EU country and another local example. After a lot of research and a lot of digging, we managed to find this incredible school in Denmark, known as the Copenhagen International School. The school building is made up of nearly entirely solar panels. For our local example, we reached out to a solar energy company known as the Sun Exchange, which focuses on placing solar panels on school institutes. Through our research and the help of Mrs. Brown, we were introduced to the concept of the solar suitcase. These solar suitcases are transportable solar panels, which can be placed in rural areas and refugee camps so that all students have access to online learning. For the project, we have been introduced to some incredible people, including members of the Danish Embassy, members of the South African Educational Department, CEOs of energy companies, as well as principals and lecturers from our local educational institutes. To conclude our paper, we discussed some of the solutions and possible ways going forward. These solutions included the use of the solar suitcase, the defabricated mobile solar schools, as well as the implementation of tax incentives. Zara will now tell you more about the challenges we experienced, as well as the lessons learned.
This ongoing project has been a culmination of intense research, making new connections both locally and internationally. But most importantly, we are not only more knowledgeable about solar energy, but we now understand the practicality, the environmental benefits, and how solar energy may be a gateway to accessible education for all. This all links to the SDGs 4, 7, 10, and 13, some being quality education, affordable and clean energy, reduced inequalities, and climate action. As we know, South Africa is one of the most unequal countries in the world. And as a result of this large economic disparity, many South African children do not have access to quality education. And as you have heard from Sanjika, a solution to this is the solar suitcase. Through this project, we have also debunked our own preconceptions regarding the costing of the solar panels, and we have learned that solar energy may initially be costly. However, in the long term, it is more feasible as the system pays itself out over 3 years and lasts from 25 to 30 years. This research paper has opened our eyes to innovative and practical solutions regarding solar energy in education, and we are privileged to be able to share our findings on this platform.
So I just want to end by challenging every city in every country in the world to not only formulate a climate action plan as promoted by Jen and Kun in the Climate Action Project, but also to make sure that that climate action plan involves consultation with youth. Thank you and good luck.
Thank you so much, Marge. Excellent, as always. I have just one request. Would you mind staying in the room in our StreamYard? And so you can ask questions to our next speakers. Rick from NASA, would you mind doing that?
Sure, my students will be happy to.
Yes, okay. Don't make the questions too tricky though, right?